Hi everyone and welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today we're going to talk about why do you overthink everything in your private practice. So if you feel like you overthink absolutely everything in your private practice, then you are not alone. You overthink your website, your niche, your content, your social media, what to say about your work, your fee, and every next step in your private practice. And after a while, it will obviously become exhausting because you're not just trying to make good decisions, you are trying to make the right decisions, the perfect decision, the safest decision, the most ethical decision, and the least embarrassing decision. So instead of moving forward, you stay stuck at night. So in this video, I want to talk about why therapists overthink so much in their private practice, why it makes sense, and how to begin moving with more clarity and less pressure. So a lot of people assume overthinking happens because someone lacks confidence or not know enough or doesn't know enough, sorry. But for therapists, that is not often the real truth. So very often overthinking happens because you care deeply about your clients, you care about doing things well, about being ethical, about not overpromising, you care about not sounding manipulative or salesy in your communication. You care about not misrepresenting yourself and you care about making the right decisions. So your brain keeps trying to protect you from getting it wrong. And that is really important to understand because overthinking is often not a sign that you are unserious or incapable, but it is often a sign that your mind is trying very hard to avoid risk, criticism, regret, or misalignment. So, in other words, overthinking is often an attempt at protection. The problem is that what feels protective in the short term can become paralyzing in the long term. Because when every decision feels loaded and exhausting, then even simple things start taking too much energy. And the thing is that your private practice really creates a perfect environment for overthinking because there is so much ambiguity. There is no single right niche, no perfect website wording, no flawless content strategy, no magical fee, no one correct business model for every therapist, and there's no special tricks to succeed in a private practice. And when there is ambiguity, the mind often starts searching for certainty. So you think, what if I choose the wrong niche? What if I say this badly? What if people judge my content? What if my website sounds too vague? What if my price is too high? What if I raise my fee too early? Or what if I commit to the wrong direction? So many and many different questions arising in your mind. So instead of deciding, you keep researching, tweaking, rewarding, beginning again, waiting, reassuring yourself, and then adopting again, again, and again. So it's really a loop that starts and repeats itself. And for many therapists, this gets even stronger when your professional identity is built around care, nuance, and responsibility. So those qualities are really beautiful in clinical work, but in your private practice in a business, they can sometimes become a trap when they turn every action into a high-stakes moral decision. So that is when overthinking starts slowing everything down. So overthinking can look harmless from the outside. It can even look responsible, but it has a huge cost. It delays action, it drains your energy, it weakens momentum, and it often keeps therapists stuck in a cycle of almost moving forward. So you are always close to starting, almost ready to post, almost ready to update your website, to choose your niche, to raise your fee, but almost can last for months and even years. And one of the hardest parts is that overthinking often feels productive because you are still thinking about your private practice, still reflecting, still trying to improve things. But thinking is not the same as deciding, and deciding is not the same as doing, as taking an action. So over time, overthinking quietly steals momentum while giving you the illusion that you are still working on the problem and that you are growing. So that is why it matters so much, not because reflection is bad, but because endless reflection without moments keeps you trapped. So what is the alternative? What is the reframe here? Well, not recklessness, not forcing yourself to become someone impulsive or to become someone new you are not, and not pretending you do not care. So the alternative is to learn to make is to learn making good enough decisions and letting action create clarity. And that is such an important shift. Because many therapists and many people in general wait for clarity before action, but often clarity comes through action. You write the website and then you will optimize it. You choose a niche direction and then you will learn from it. You post content and then your voice becomes clearer. You try something and then reality teaches you more than overthinking ever could. So confidence usually does not arrive first. It grows after repeated evidence that you can act, adjust, and then survive imperfection. So that means your goal is not to eliminate uncertainty before moving. Your goal is to build enough safety inside yourself to move without total certainty. And that is a much more realistic and much more freeing standard. Because in the end, clarity will come through each action that you took. You take an action, you take a step, then you have some feedback, and then you optimize what you are doing, and then you repeat again and again the process until you achieve the result you want to achieve. So if you notice yourself that you are overthinking everything in your private practice, here is a question I would invite you to ask yourself. Am I trying to make a good decision, or am I trying to make a decision that removes all possibility of discomfort, judgment, or imperfection? Because those are really not the same. A good decision is thoughtful, grounded, and good enough for now, while a perfection, protective decision is impossible. And many therapists stay stuck because they are aiming for impossible emotional guarantees before they act. No regret, no doubt, no criticism, no awkwardness, and no risk of imperfection. But that standard will keep you frozen. So sometimes the next step is not to think more. Sometimes it is to choose one reasonable step and let movement teach you what thought alone cannot. So if you make a mistake, that's not a problem. You will learn from it, and then you will do another action. And it's like that you will succeed in your private practice in the long run. And it's also why it's important to have systems to prevent a lot of guessing work and to build a predictable private practice that will succeed through time without needing you to think about everything every time. So if you have been overthinking everything in your private practice, I hope that this little video helps you see that with a little more compassion. You are not overthinking because you are weak. You are not overthinking because you are incapable. Very often you are just overthinking because you care, because you want to do things very well. You want to do things perfectly, and because part of you is trying to protect you from getting it wrong. And that makes really sense. But at some point, that protection becomes stagnation. That protection becomes resistance. And that is when a different kind of strength is needed. So not the strength to be perfect, but the strength to move before you feel fully certain. So if you liked this video, you can put a like and follow the YouTube channel, and we will see each other for the next one. Goodbye.